Have you ever had a moment where somebody has challenged you to think bigger than you've ever thought about before? What would you do with that moment, and how would it change your life? I'm going to give you a glimpse into what that exact moment did for PJ Kennedy. This is his F-150 moment.
This is From the Ground Up, and I'm Lindsay Smith with PJ Kennedy. PJ, how are you?
I'm great, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited to have you here sitting with me in these chairs to kind of talk about how you got started.
Okay.
Where you came from, right? Because we all have that starting point that all of a sudden, we come into real estate, we're like, this is where we're going to be. And then we've got that pivotal moment that really changes our focus, that changes, we call it in Keller Williams, we call it that shift moment, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we talk a lot about. And where you are today. So tell everybody who you are, where you got started, why you got started.
I fell into the business by accident. That's the short answer. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts.
Red Sox?
Go Red Sox. Not this past year, but
Anyway, yeah, we'll move
on. I went to culinary school at Johnson & Wales in Providence, Rhode Island. My dad jokes with me that I got 2 associates and a bachelor's with a double minor, and most people that go to school for that long are called doctors. So I became a chef. I just really wanted to open my own restaurant. My mother is Sicilian, my father's Irish, so I always grew up home-cooked meals, and I wanted to kind of continue that tradition. And so when I graduated from Johnson & Wales, I actually moved down to Miami. I worked for a company down there in the restaurant business. I had interned with another company, bounced around a little bit being a single young guy. They were like, so we need you in Atlanta. And so it was like, in a week, I was moved to Atlanta, and that's ultimately how I got here in Charlotte. It's a great little restaurant right around the corner from me called Bricktops. They transferred me here.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. I also was a chef for Firebirds here for a couple of years. Was trying to figure out life and what I wanted to do and what it was going to cost to open a restaurant and do all of these things. So I got away from the corporate side and I was just bartending. And there's an individual by the name of Thomas Elrod. You might know him. And,
fantastic agent.
Fantastic agent.
Runs a business like a business.
Yep. So shameless plug for High Performance Real Estate Advisors. Yep. I'm going to show my age because it was actually just called the Elrod team back then. And Thomas would come into my bar, and he would always come in Mondays for the $5 hamburger special. And that's what I remember. And every time he would leave a business card. And this was my first lesson in leverage in real estate, which I didn't even know was going on at this time. And so I was like, dude, I know who you are, take your business card back. And he was like, well, those aren't for you. He goes, you see more people on a day-to-day basis than I do. He goes, and so when people come in, they start talking about, the real estate world or business or anything, could you pass my information along? And I didn't realize that he was creating basically an ISA out of me. And so he came back, he would come in from time to time, and he came, and I can't remember, it was like $30,000 or $40,000 in the last 3 or 6 months were all leads that I had given him. And wait,
PJ, hold on.
Yeah.
You were really working as an ISA for him in just your daily life.
And I didn't really feel like I was working at all.
No. You were just doing what you loved to do and having conversations with people.
Yep. And I've always been, every year in the yearbook it was most talkative. And if you ever got most talkative in the yearbook, you should probably be in real estate, just FYI.
Amen.
And so, of course, when he told me that, my reaction was, you only tip $20. And so, as a result, he said, well, I'm here to offer you a job. And so I started learning. He gave me some script books, got enrolled with Superior School of Real Estate over in Ballantyne. This is where I'm brutally honest. Completely failed the school. Went back, took the school a second time, was in there with a good friend of mine, Jessica Pegg, who runs Pegg Properties.
Yeah.
Jessica and I had known each other from the bartender world before this. And so we, kind of study buddies, got through it, ended up passing the class, then went and took the test, passed the national portion, failed the state portion. Went back, failed the state portion again. Went back, third time was a charm, and I passed and had my real estate license.
I love that.
And so, and I'm very honest for a lot of people out there, it's not the easiest test in the world by any means, and if you just stick with it, it can really change your life. So let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, so you got your license, third time's the charm, you're there, you got your license.
February 4th, 2013.
Okay. Did you go work directly for Thomas after that, or what did you do?
Yeah, I had kind of already started working a little bit, or I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
You could do non-licensed activities while you're in real estate school.
Unlicensed ISA.
Yeah.
Then as a result, I was still bartending at nights, and I signed up with Keller Williams Ballantyne. I've done my entire career with Keller Williams with the intention of I was going to learn from Thomas, I was going to build my own business, and I was going to go out and start my own boutique firm. I've always wanted to be the boss and kind of run my own thing. And 12 years later, or almost 12 years later next month, I'm still here. I can't find a good reason to leave the company, in all honesty. So I get into real estate. I worked with Thomas through 2013. At the end of the year, I decided to go off on my own. Became an independent agent. Was doing that for a little more than a year when I had the opportunity to become a productivity coach. And so Chip Walton, I'm sure you know
Chip.
Chip.
Absolutely.
Chip, even when I was on Thomas's team, Thomas insisted upon us getting into coaching. So Chip was the productivity coach, and he coached me being on a team. He coached me as an individual agent. Chip got the nod to become a team leader.
Yeah,
and,
he did.
And an amazing team leader at that.
He's fantastic. He's still doing it to this day.
He is.
12 years later, 10 years later, he's still doing it.
I have a funny story about that.
Uh-oh. I want to hear that. Wait, go tell the funny story about Chip first. Go.
I graduated to a team leader at some point.
Yes.
I was the team leader in Cornelius.
Were you really?
I was from late 2019 into the end of 2021.
Okay.
And so
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I worked for Kent Temple, who's an amazing operating principal, and just the utmost, one of the most patient guys I've ever met.
Listen, we don't need to make Kent's head much bigger, okay?
Well,
we both have a lot of respect for Kent. No, I'm kidding.
Well, whenever I go to teach, I'm like, if you love this class, my name is PJ Kennedy. If you didn't, it's Kent Temple.
We all do that to Kent. Why do we do that to him?
I think he does it. That's why I do it.
He does.
Kent was a great mentor. But anyways, the funny story is that Chip actually called me up before he took the team leader position in Cornelius. He goes, "You're going to be mad if I take your old job." And I was like, no, by all means. It was a really cool full circle moment for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Chip brought me on, and as Chip would tell you, that I am, he calls me like a wooden block. He says, "We just need to keep sanding you." And I've been, maybe it's the bluntness from the north. I have worked on being less reactionary over time. So I did that, and I was one of 2 productivity coaches for the office for about 18 months or so. And I actually just told this story in the class, that I had increased my production from, I think it was like 3.4, 3.5 million to 7.9 million with 28 coaching clients in 1 year.
Wow.
And I was like, that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Chip,
still as a solo agent.
Still as a solo agent. I had an admin at
So
this
you
point.
did it right. You hired, the first hire you did was an admin.
It took me 5 to find the right one.
That's okay.
Yet she's still sitting in that seat 8 years later. So
you did it right.
So that part.
Listen, sometimes we fail forward. It's Gary's favorite thing. We fail forward.
Absolutely.
That's okay.
I tell that to people all the time. I mean, how many times did it take me to pass the test, right?
Right.
So yes, fail forward as much as you can. And I don't know, Chip might get mad at me for telling this story.
We'll make sure we don't send this to him.
So he pulled me in the office, and I thought I'd had a great year and great coaching, and he fired me. And
Wow.
and I mean, this has been my mentor for the past four-ish years, whatever. And I do have a lot of love and respect for him still to this day. We are amazing friends. And he said, my coaches do $10 million. And this is what I didn't realize at that point, which it took me. Chip's an amazing coach and an amazing leader because he doesn't give you the answers. He lays down the breadcrumbs so you can find the answers. And then you feel like, I did this, and then you're like, oh wait, he had that whole thing in motion from the get-go. Seriously.
He really orchestrated it all, and I just played right into it.
And so I was like, look at my numbers. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So anyways, he said, my coaches do $10 million a year. And what I didn't realize was that I was doing so good in my business, and my coaching clients were doing so great that I got lazy. And I really kind of just got off the balls of my feet, kind of was just kind of like, look at me, right?
Of course.
Going to go play golf on a Tuesday instead of lead generate.
Yeah.
And so I worked my tail off for the next 6 months because what Chip also knew about me was that if he told me I couldn't have something, I would work extra hard to get it. Reverse psychology 101.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, as you can tell, I talk a lot. I'm a storyteller.
No,
Sorry.
this is great. I love every minute of this.
So from there, I ended up not talking to him for 6 months. And
I'm going to prove something to you.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the cold shoulder, and I'm going to go work harder than I've ever worked.
That's the Northern Aries, stubborn,
from
whatever you want to call it.
I get it. Yep.
And Chip's from New York, so he knew exactly how to play those cards.
Got that trifecta right there: New York, Boston, Connecticut.
And if you know Chip, he gets in the office really early in the morning.
Yes.
And so it was 6 months down the road, and it was like 7 a.m., and I'm waiting for him outside of his office. And he's like, hey, not like, you haven't talked to me in 6 months, no resentment, no nothing. It was just like, what's up? Come on in, as my team leader. And I had just started a team at this point. So I had the admin, and I had 2 agents that I was bringing in, and that had just kind of started, or I was getting ready to do that, excuse me. It was just after this. And I said, I'm drowning. I was like, I've been working my butt off. I need a coach. Coach me. And he goes, okay. And if you know anything about Chip, he has a 7:30 phone call, which now is an 8 o'clock phone call, but it used to be a 7:30 phone call. And Jessica Pegg and myself were one of the people that pushed because we said, we're from the hospitality business. You need to yell at us, right? And so Chip said, I'm going to do a 7:30 phone call because nobody's going to get on a 7:30 phone call. 10 years later, the 7:30 phone call is now running at 8 o'clock every
Still going.
It is still going, and he still runs it, which, again, we talk about silver lining, and I think it was something, and you'd have to ask him this, but my speculation is he didn't really want to do it, so he put it that early, and now it's like one of the things he's just known for. And you got executives from Bank of America, or maybe it's Wells Fargo, in on that call in the morning. So it's not just a real estate call. Anyways, sorry, bunny trail. So from there, he said, okay, we'll need to get you to your numbers. We need to get you to your level. And I finished the year doing 11.3 million.
You were like, here's your 10, and I'm going to take you one further. Like,
yeah, something like that. And he said to me, he goes, great. He's like, you want your job back? And I was like, no, I'm starting a team. And I had kind of started it. And he goes, and he kind of just had that look like a proud parent, like, good.
yeah.
And so that was 15, the end of 15, I think. And so we started Kennedy Homes of the Carolinas. And from there, we built up to like 9, 10 agents, 12 agents, and was like, we'll just let the cream rise to the top. That was a big fall on your face forward. We let go of everybody except for the admin and 2 agents and rebuilt from there.
In what year did you do that?
I'm probably around 16, 17 here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this was end of 16 into 17. And so from there, we decided to really nurture and build it slowly. And we took on, I think later, we took on a couple of agents. one of your guys, Brandon Crane here. He was with our team, and I love Brandon to death. I have a very funny story about Brandon, which I don't know if I can tell on here. But I did leave to go be a team leader, and I know that bothered Brandon because he wanted that one-on-one with me. And so he did go actually to Thomas's team. Then he went off on his own, and then I think he went to a boutique firm or something, and then came here.
John's like, uh-oh.
I came into the office one day and Brandon was on Bumble, the dating app. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, stop dating and get back to lead gen. And he goes, no, there's a Bumble for business. I'm securing a $500,000 listing. And I was like,
what?
And I had no idea. I really did. I was in a relationship at the time, so wasn't on dating apps, And I was like, I didn't even know that Bumble for business was a thing. And he did. He got his first listing.
Note to self, go look up Bumble for business.
Well,
got
okay,
it.
as leadership to leadership, I'm going to tell you to be careful about
Don't
that.
do it.
Because they're like, PJ told me to download Bumble. No, that's not what I said. Okay. So, but yeah, so from there, I built a team up. And in that, prior to Brandon joining, we got a great young agent come on the team. Her name's Cecilia Lilly. And she has been with me, I think November was celebrating 5 years, I believe. And Victoria, who was one of the agents that we kept, we downsized everything, has been with for 6 years.
PJ, that's a huge accomplishment. When people build teams, right, we see teams a lot like a revolving door.
Yes.
What makes your team so special to have kept those agents for so long?
So I think, and believe you me, I've had my fair share of agents come and go as well.
Of course.
I think that one of the things is how we go about doing it. Brenda Benson, my operating principal, amazing woman, amazing visionary, amazing entrepreneur. And she was always told me, if you don't build a solid foundation, how do you ever expect the thing to stay standing? Mm-hmm. And that always resonated with me. And so if you want to come and meet with our team, number one, we don't just, come in for an interview and we call it a day. We take it very seriously. You come in, you have about a 15-minute conversation with myself.
Okay.
Outline a couple of things and why we do what we do. And we are known at Keller Williams Ballantine as the events team. So if you want to do events, this is the team that goes, and we do a lot of events. So we're a sponsor for the Charlotte Knights. We have been for 6 years. So we do evenings, nights at the Knights.
Love that.
So we've got a table out front. We do a raffle gift basket, and we will make 150 to 200 contacts in about an hour and a half's time, just by doing a little raffle gift basket. In addition to that, you have to come in, have the conversation. From there, what we will do is we will sit down and we will have you go through a series of interviews. You do not get to come to your interview if you have not completed a DISC personality profile and the 5 love languages online test. The reason we do that is because, number one, I want to know what your DISC personality is. And I know some people are different about that. Some people love it, some people don't.
Sure.
Yet I want to make sure that your personality is going to fit into the personality that we already have on the team, whether it's mine, whether it's whoever. We do the 5 love languages because there's a book out there called The 1 Minute Manager, or it's actually a series of books. And Mo Anderson always said the Velvet Hammer. They, in the 1 Minute Manager, talk about what's called a love sandwich. And so if you're not hitting your numbers, Lindsay, we're going to have a conversation about how important you are to the team. We're going to talk about where we're at with our numbers and where we expected to be by the goals that you set. And then we're going to love on you for everything that you've done well and why you're a strong value to the team. We just need to push that up a little bit. So by knowing your love languages, I know how to have that conversation with you. Because if you're a words of affirmation person, okay, every time Lindsay gets a new listing or she has a closing, we are screaming that from the rooftops. Okay,
right.
I've had other people that is a 0 and they don't want the praise. They want to fly under the radar. And so we have to know how to praise that person or reprimand those people accordingly. So we'll do that. They will have an interview, and it doesn't really matter. It's either an interview with myself or with Jenna, my director of operations. Doesn't matter what order we do those interviews in. And so we'll do that, and then they have to come back for the second interview with the other. Cecilia, who's now our lead agent on the team, will typically stop into one or two of those interviews, ask a couple of questions just to kind of get a feel, and then explain how our team runs. And we're very family oriented. We never take on more than 2 people at a time, and we do that for a reason, so that they can get an individual needs, and then we put them on a 30, 60, 90. We call it a 90-day probationary period. It's a 30, 60, 90 essentially, where we give you the right to walk away at any point in time for any reason, no hard feelings, but we also reserve that right for us.
Smart.
And so as a result, you can usually find in 90 days whether somebody's going to work or not work. And we've had some back and forth. I've got a great young agent right now, and I need her to do a couple of things just to grow up a little bit to do well. And then she's like, "Oh, I just listed this Panthers player's house," and I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, he got traded to the Falcons.
Yep,
Those of you who can do your research know who it is, and we just put it under contract yesterday.
Wow.
So I think that really, when you're going to manage anyone in life, whether it's being the rainmaker of a team or what, people have to know that you're there for them. Now, you can't just give them the world, right? And one of the questions we have on there is, do you expect to get leads? Because if people are like, well, I'm joining a team for leads, you're joining a team, number one, for the wrong reason, and you're not joining this team, basically.
Right.
So we need to make sure that they know that we're there for them, yet we're fair. And Cecilia being a lead agent, and her and we have a relationship together outside of this, a personal relationship, and I have to reprimand her in front of people sometimes. And it may not be the best for the home life, but it's the best for the business. And but I don't know
if I even want to dive more into all of that.
Yeah, we're not going to touch that one. Well, no, it's about being a team player, and I'm not chastising anybody or anything like that, yet we all have to make sure that I know that I can go to whoever on my team and they're going to be supportive of me. I'm always available for everybody. We link everybody's calendar together. So they know where I am, I know where they are.
That's a big deal.
It is, and as we say, if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist.
I have never learned that harder than in the last 2 years. It's
really?
Not on my calendar. It does not exist.
Yeah, and when people call me and there's something on my calendar, I purposely do not pick up the phone, because they should be checking the calendar first. And that may sound cruel or rude. No, I'm helping them to develop a better habit. And that's how it has to be looked at.
Very much so.
So I don't know if I answered the question with that.
No, that was awesome. We have TL 30, 60, 90, but I'm okay to step into it a couple minutes late today, because this is good. This is really good. All right, so that puts you into, then you were a team leader from 2019 to 2021.
Yeah, so back up a second.
Uh-oh. Okay, back up. Yeah, go.
So I sat down with my financial advisor, who's literally right around the corner.
Perfect.
Dan Mullane, Consolidated Planning. Shameless plug.
I love all your shameless plugs.
And I said, he's like, well, what's the goal? And because I'm goal oriented, anybody in my world, whatever you do, you have to be goal oriented, or I'm not going to work with you. I will find somebody that has goals, that wants to set it. So he knows this about me. His wife's an agent. She worked on our team for a while. She's now an independent agent. They had a couple of kids, love them to death. He said, what's the goal? I said, to retire by I'm 40. So we set up a plan so I could retire by the time I was 40. I had to have X amount of dollars in the bank. I needed to have Y amount of investment properties, and basically what I call while you sleep money coming in on a monthly basis, and then using the team's revenue and a couple of other investments that I'm involved in. The problem with that, or the opportunity with that, was...
I like that wording much better. The opportunity with that is what?
They hit the numbers at 38. So I said, okay, I'm going to take a step back, and I was still a rainmaker of the team, because I didn't want to let the team go, yet it was just kind of like the leads coming in, I was just passing out to all my people and letting them do the heavy lifting, yet I wanted them to make more money, because I knew now I was at a comfortable place in my life. Then opportunity for TL came about. So I went, got to work with Kent Temple, again, amazing individual. And from there, worked with him until life hit me. And life hit hard. I realized, and Teresa Staker just left the team leader role in
Yes,
Valentine.
she did.
3 years as an amazing team leader, amazing results, and
She's an amazing human being too.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I became a productivity coach, she was my first coaching client.
Was
And
she really?
It was crazy full circle moment.
Wow.
And those things keep happening because if you listen to Gary Keller, we have patterns in our life and these things keep happening. And Teresa was saying something, and at the time she wasn't the team leader, but she was talking at something, and I just popped in to see her. I think she was the productivity coach still at the time. And she said, are you showing up? Are you being present? Or are you being enthusiastically present? And that's when I realized, showing up to my son's events, I was on the phone responding to, my coffee appointment with this agent over here to pull them to Keller Williams or whatever, right? Or I'm meeting with, new agents in the afternoon, and I'm texting people, and I'm, at my son's football game, like, great job, buddy, and I was present. I wasn't enthusiastically present. And one thing I love is I sat down with Kent Temple. He was actually teaching a class here at your market center.
Of course he was.
And we met at a McDonald's at 7 o'clock in the morning. And
You like that 7 o'clock time frame, don't
apparently.
you? Okay.
Maybe you need to get up at 7 more often.
Maybe you need to be more productive at 7.
Yeah. And so I sat down with him, and I was like, I'll give you the rest of the year. It was November, I think. I think it was business planning is what he was teaching.
Probably.
And I was like, whatever you need, yet I'm going to have to make a transition next year, 2022, to get out of this role. And that was 2022. And so he complimented me and said, well, you did it the right way. He's like, you came and met me face to face. Because I had an inkling when you wanted to meet me at 7 o'clock in the morning that it was something. And he was like 2 weeks. Pam, his wife, came in, took over as team leader, and they didn't keep me till the end of the year, which I was more than happy to do. And so from there, I just kind of went back to the team, and I kind of lollygagged for 2022, in all honesty, and didn't really know what I wanted to do from there. Got some investment opportunities and some other stuff that I did get involved with. Then really 2023 stuff was kind of sliding a different direction, and I knew I had to kind of step back in. We just finished this past year in a down year for us, but the last 3 years before that we were doing 25 to 30 million, really only with a couple of agents. We've built up now to where we have director of operations, myself, and 6 agents. One is brand spanking new, one is independent agent for a year. She's just kind of finding her course. One is about to celebrate 2 years and is really finding his stride. Cecilia's still there. And then we have 2 part-time agents. And I know people are like, oh, we don't do part-time agents.
We call them dual career here because it's like 2 full-time careers. It really is. And we have some amazing part-time agents, but yeah.
Well, dual career.
Dual career.
One runs a wine vineyard and the other is a school teacher, and they're still putting up, 3 to 4 million in sales a year, more than some of the independent agents are out there doing. We do keep the good systems in place, and the thing is, you had to have been full-time with us. We don't want to just take on a bunch of dual career people.
Yeah.
Yet Victoria is one of them, and she's been with me for 6 years. And there was times where I don't know if we were going to be able to, make the expense payment for the month if Victoria wasn't closing houses, and I'm a very loyal person to that. So from there, we've just been kind of chugging away for the last 2 years and figuring out what the new opportunities are. I always said I read the MREA every single year because a man never looks at a river the same way twice. The man's changed, the river's changed. And I've now realized that I should have been doing that with Shift every year. So that's the book that I've just restarted reading again for I don't know how many times. Yet, when you're an independent agent, it means one thing to you. When you're a member of a team, it means something else to you. As a productivity coach, it means something different. As a team leader, it means something different. As a rainmaker, I look at being a rainmaker as being responsible for a lot of people's income. And if you go into it with that mindset, instead of just looking at the profit, and I do like the book Profit First, yet if you look at it as I'm responsible for making sure that their kids can eat tonight, because that's really the job of a rainmaker. And the mindset class we just taught, we've heard the bold law, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. If you go into it with a different mindset, it's amazing what shows up. I think that, and I don't know if you can tell just like in the way I'm talking about it, I get emotional about some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest opportunities for me as a rainmaker is wanting it more than that agent wants it. And that's one of the toughest things to realize, unfortunately.
That is really hard when you love somebody so hard professionally, and you can see their potential, and you're sitting there and you're like, this person is going to be so fantastic, and for whatever reason they don't see it in themselves, they just don't want it as much as you do. Like, you want this big life, you want this big legacy for them to leave, and they don't see it.
And sometimes you've got to look at it, because it's not just that they don't get it, it's they don't get it right now. And that's also, like, I changed my thinking a long time ago when I was just talking with Mark Brenneman the other day, and I said, when I took Bold with Wayne Salmons for the first time, and he's no longer with our company, but that was life-changing for me. It really was. It got me to stop looking at everything from a negative point of view and start looking at things from a positive point of view. It helped me realize a lot of different things, and one of the things that I realized is, looking back now, I was nowhere near the person I am today, and I had to learn that through some experiences. So as a rainmaker, it's my job and my responsibility to give those experiences to someone. Again, as I go back to Chip, not giving them the answers, because I was like, here's how to write a contract. Here, just do this, do that, right? And it was, let them fall on their face a little bit. Put the breadcrumbs down, because when they understand it and they have a different level of accomplishment and a different level of achievement, and if they're smart enough, they look back and go, oh, it was Chip who did that. And then they're like, and then they're with you for life. They will never leave you. They will come back to you. I've gone back to Chip and asked him advice about my personal life. Chip's just kind of like, I don't know, it's really in his wheelhouse. Yet it's because
I didn't know I was going to be a therapist too. Like, coach, yes, therapist.
Well, in real estate, we're all therapists.
Oh, yes, we are.
So,
yes, we are.
But yeah, so it's been a heck of a 12-year journey.
What was the biggest life experience that changed everything for you? Because you said you're not who you are today. So what was the biggest, either aha, epiphany, whatever you want to call it, the biggest life-changing experience that has shaped you?
I might get emotional.
That's okay.
So after my first year, I was in debt, $7,300.
Which is nothing compared to a lot of people today.
Correct.
Yeah.
I had a private loan out to someone else for $5,600. I was behind a mortgage payment. I had my electricity shut off 3 times that year. And
wow, PJ.
So I have my son on the weekends, and they always shut your electricity off on Fridays.
Always.
Always.
So you can't call them and bother them over.
Well, no, it's because it's double to turn it on the weekend versus waiting till Monday. Mm-hmm. And so we would go to our friends up the street and have slumber parties for the weekend. And my son was 3 years old at the time, 4 years old at three. And he didn't know, he just thought we were all going to have a big slumber party, and it was because we didn't have electricity at our house. So this was my second year in real estate. And I think it was around February or March. And Chip was my productivity coach. And so I go to Chip and I'm like, laid out everything. Behind a mortgage payment. My electricity had been turned off for the first time. I got it back on. I just laid everything out on the table for him, and all of my bills, everything. And I said, okay, coach me. Go ahead. Here you go. Coach me. And he said, okay, well, if you had all of this wiped off, what's the one thing you would do for yourself? And I was like, dude, did you not just hear the mountain or what I thought was a mountain of debt, and everything that's going wrong in my life. I'd just been separated, like, not even 6 months before that, from my son's mother. Like, stuff was just, I was spiraling the drain. And I think most people at this point would have been like, out of real estate.
Give me a W-2 job.
Back to the restaurant world. And my parents actually encouraged me to do that. And my son's mother encouraged me to do that. One thing is when you tell me not to do something, you know. So, Chip said, what would you get right now if you could have anything in the world? If you could have something, what would you need? And I was like, I need a new pickup truck. And he's like, okay, go on. I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. Did you hear all this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, long story. So he had me basically write out what I would have for a pickup truck, because when we write our goals down, they show up. So I did. I wrote black F-150, and I was like, it's got to be black on black. But I was like, I want the suicide door so I can still have a 6-foot bed in the back. It's got to be the FX4 package. Blah 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 blah. Okay.
While your bills are still sitting in front of you.
So I go to Fantasyland, as Chip calls it, right? And so he goes, okay. So now what you need to do is rent a cubicle. And I was like, dude, I don't have, it was, I will never forget this. It was $62.50 a month to rent a cubicle at Ballantyne in 2014. He's like, you need to rent a cubicle. And I was like, this guy's just trying to sucker money out of me for the business, right? Like, I'm already broke. So I go in, I sit down, I rent a cubicle. And the cool thing is, so the square root of 144 is 12, because Mark Brenneman taught me when you start getting emotional, you do math, because there's no emotion in math.
Okay.
So square root of 144 is 12. And my bill didn't show up for the first 2 months. And so you can speculate who paid it or whatever, and we'll go from there. It showed up right after I had my first closing, that I was back on track. And I was drilling phones every single day, 6 hours a day. I got my work ethic going. People saw what I was doing. There was a great agent in the office, Danny Williamson, DW Realty. He came up to me and he's like, dude, you're working your tail off. He's like, I don't take listings under 150,000. Here's a condo for 80 grand. I don't want it. If it's yours, take it. I don't even want a referral fee. Which was a really cool gesture, and I actually got to pay that forward to an agent further down the road, which was very cool. So we go through this whole thing. The transaction coordinator for our office, Dave's Closing Services, gave me a client because he's like, I work with a ton of agents and I have for years. He's like, this kid's in the office every single day. And after my separation with my son's mother, I only had my son on the weekends. And so I could get there at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I could work till 8, 9 o'clock at night if I wasn't bartending. And I had stopped bartending in my first year, so I didn't even have the cushion.
To fall
nothing.
back on.
So fast forward to October. Sorry, I know I'm a storyteller. I had my first $1 million month. You know it's bad when the cameras are telling you to shut up.
It just decided to go off. It's all right.
So October, I had my first $1 million month. At the end of that month, I paid off the $5,600. I paid off the $7,300. I went to the electric company and I gave them an extra $300 and just asked them to hold it. They're like, you overpaid. I was like, just hold it.
Just leave it.
Like just hold it.
Yeah.
And so we ended that, and then it was Black Friday sales for just after Thanksgiving, and I bought an F-150. And I didn't pay cash for it, yet it amazed me. I mean, this wasn't even a full 12 months. How my life went from this to I'm buying a new car. Right. The funny thing is, I'm just very set in my ways. I drove that truck here today.
You still have it?
I do still have it.
I absolutely love that.
I do.
Do you think every time you get in the car, do you think or your truck really? Do you think to yourself like?
Maybe not every time,
PJ.
But it's one of those things that I get to look at, like, and that truck, I think it's got 260,000 miles on it now. I mean, it's been beaten back. I've replaced the transmission in it. I just did new tires. I put a lift on it. I just did the rack and pinion and new ball joints on it.
Gosh,
like literally, like
I'm never getting
week.
rid of this truck. Like that.
No.
That's it.
And it's like, and I have 3 other cars and a motorcycle. Okay. Yet I look at that and I'm like, nobody knows what it took to get that. Unless they've heard this story, they have an inkling or a sense, but you weren't with me every single day in what it took to get that and that sense of accomplishment. And so that, for me, buying that truck, that was the real turning point. Like, and it may sound stupid to some people out there, but buying an F-150 was a turning point where I was like, it took away all of the limiting beliefs to where I was like, look at what I just did last year. Now we got to plus it. Now we've got to, I've got a house. I've got to go get a second house, And in 12 years, that was my next goal. And to this day, I have 8 houses right now. I've got property live in. I have a house in South End, or townhouse. Have the house on the lake. Should have stayed at the one in South End from my timing getting here this morning. And then we have 6 investment properties. We just got a boathouse that we're fixing up for another investment property. And I've done 16 investment properties over the last 10 years. And it's just, okay, what's the next challenge? And we got really irritated with the property management companies and what they were charging. So a year ago, December, we opened a property management company, and we're running with that now. And we have 40 doors right now after a year. And
wow.
We're not the biggest or baddest in the business, but that's the next thing. And,
right.
and what's the next challenge? And for my guys, I'm like, where do you want to be? What's your next challenge? Because I want them to have that F-150 moment.
Everybody should have an F-150 moment.
That's what we're going to call it.
Everybody should have an F-150 moment.
Yeah.
Everybody should look back and say, like, this is that life-changing moment.
Yeah, so thank you for letting me share that. And
I'm grateful that you shared that. I don't want an apology. I'm so grateful because people come into this business, you and I see it. We talk to so many people getting into real estate, already in real estate, and we think it's easy. And I love that we make it look so easy. We're our own worst enemies. We make it look so easy. We make it look so hard. But there are such pivotal moments that we don't think about. We're a commission-only business.
Yep.
And we're at the mercy of so many variables that literally sign our check at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And so many of us give up because it does get hard.
Well, as I said in class earlier today, I said, the best thing about this business? Freedom. I said, the worst thing about this business? Freedom.
Freedom.
Because it enables us to be lazy, and we all feel like we have to put a show on, because if I don't look successful, people aren't going to work with me, right? And that's why I make the running joke of, they're eating Ruth Chris and posting it on social media, and then for the next 3 weeks, it's ramen noodles and PBR at home, Mm-hmm. And we need to have more consistency, and that's really the thing that's going to build the success.
Yeah. I'm grateful that you showed up today. I'm grateful that you worked in our office and gave some great tips to our agents, and I'm grateful that you sat down with me, because I hope more people hear this and more people have that F-150 moment.
I hope so, and I'm grateful that you guys wanted to even talk to me.
Yes!
or have me do a class here, and so thank you for that, because one of the biggest things that I think I took from Chip was I told him, I said, okay, do you want me to join your team? Like, I owe you for everything you've done. Like, what do I need to do? And he's like, you don't owe me. He's like, you owe it to the next person and pay it forward. And so that's why I started teaching in the first place. That's why I wrote that class, Mindset, mm-hmm. And got it introduced, and luckily CES adopted it, mm-hmm. And I had to teach it rogue for about a year and a half before it got adopted. I did,
Good for you.
And my good buddy Aaron Kaufman in Atlanta. I called him and I was like, nobody wants this class. What do I do? He goes, well, what are you charging for the class? I said, well, they charge $1,000 a class. I was like, so I was doing, $750. He goes, can you do it for $250? I said, yeah. He goes, you make it the cheapest. You make it so people can't ignore it, and then people are going to bring you on, because if you know Aaron Kaufman's story, he was very much a rebel in the industry, and now he sits down with Gary Keller and teaches the KW effect.
Yeah.
And so I took his advice, and it took off from there, and it was an amazing thing. So, and I believe in pay it forward. Thank you guys for having me, wanting to talk with me, and just everybody go find your F-150 moment.
Let's do it. I hope you have many more of those moments in 2025.
I hope it's not an F-150 next time.
I love it.